Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new Pokemon trading card game video. What we have today is a Machamp EX deck that we'll be using in combination with the Ariados. So Machamp EX is going to be the main attacker of our deck. It has the Steaming Mad and the Crazy Hammer attacks. Steaming Mad allows us to hit for 20 damage times the number of damage counters on this Pokemon. So it's a pretty good last resort attack, especially if Machamp EX is close to being knocked out. We also have the Crazy Hammer attack, which is ideally going to be the main attack that we will be using with that Machamp EX. Hits for only 80 damage, but if we're affected by a special condition, this attack hits for 80 more damage, so that is 160 damage. Now you guys are thinking, well, how are we going to inflict damage upon ourselves, and how are we going to get the total damage output of that Machamp EX high enough to get those big one-hit knockouts? Well, first of all, we're going to inflict ourselves with a special condition due to that Ariados' Poisonous Nest ability, so this will allow us to poison both our own active Pokemon and the opponent's Pokemon as well, so that is kind of nice, of course unless our opponent's active Pokemon happens to be a grass Pokemon. So that's going to then allow that Machamp EX to hit for a massive 160 damage. However, to increase the total damage output, we need a little bit of more damage, so the Fighting Stadium will help us out with respects to that, so that will push up the total damage output of that Machamp EX to 180 damage. We actually have a lot of different cards that we can use to get that magic 180. One of them being the Fighting Stadium card, another one being the Muscle Band, which we are running 3 copies of in our deck, and the very last one of those cards being the Strong Energy, which we are running a total of 4 copies of in our deck. So getting big one-hit knockouts is absolutely not an issue for us, even against a lot of Mega EX decks, because I mean the Strong Energies, the Muscle Bands, and the Fighting Stadium really start to stack up. And don't forget, we have that Ariados, which is also inflicting that poison damage. So Machamp EX is a very solid overall attacker. So moving on to some of our remaining attackers, guys, we have the Landorus, which is going to be used for 2 sorts of purposes. One of them is mainly for its Shout of Power to provide some energy acceleration and then ultimately load up those Machamp EXs a little bit earlier. Its second usage is in case we encounter any sort of Safeguard deck, or for example we encounter the Beautifly, which is immune to our EX Pokemon's attacks. Landorus will be able to take care of those with the Sky Lariat attack, which hits for 90 damage, which is pretty nice, but again, we have those Strong Energies, the Muscle Bands, and the Fighting Stadium, so we can easily increase the total damage output of that Landorus to a large extent. The very last Pokemon that we have in our deck, guys, is the Hawlucha, which we are running 3 copies of. It has the Flying Press attack. Just a nice Pokemon to have out into play, especially if we're facing any sort of EX Pokemon. It also has absolutely no retreat cost, so often what we can do is we can inflict poison damage on both our own Pokemon and our opponent's active Pokemon, and then that Hawlucha can simply go right ahead and retreat. Now, one tool Pokemon card that I highly recommend you guys run in your decks, and we're actually running 3 copies of, is the Focus Sash. It works absolutely beautifully with the Machamp EX deck. I mean, especially if we latch them onto those Hawluchas and those Landoruses, because let's look at it this way. I mean, Hawlucha can pretty much perform 2-hit knockouts on any EX Pokemon that we will be encountering. If we attach a Focus Sash, and say if we were able to attack first, then we'll lower that opponent's EX Pokemon's HP quite considerably. Then they attack us, that Hawlucha still has 10 HP remaining. Then we go right ahead and attack. We take 2 prize cards, and our opponent isn't even able to take a single prize card. So Focus Sash is really nice. I highly do recommend you guys do run it in your decks. We also have a total of 2 copies of the Scorched Earth Stadium card. So we have a total of 5 Stadium cards in our deck. I know it seems like quite a bit, but believe me, that Scorched Earth Stadium card is quite nice, especially if we are facing, say, a Donphan type deck, for example. Scorched Earth might be the better option, but Scorched Earth's main purpose is just to allow us to get some of those Fighting Energy cards into our discard pile, and then our Landorus can go right ahead and fetch them out using the Shout of Power attack. So we are running a total of 2 copies of this respective Stadium card. We are running a total of 3 Switch cards in total, one of them being the Escape Rope, 2 of them being the Switches. Now keep in mind that the reason that we are running these Switches and the Escape Ropes is because whenever we do make use of that Machamp EX's last resort attack, it confuses ourselves, but if we are able to survive an attack, what we'd like to do is immediately switch out the Machamp EX during our next turn, because confusion can be really deadly. Especially because there's no guarantee that we'll be able to inflict any damage upon our opponents during our next turn, and oftentimes we actually end up hitting ourselves. So that's the main purpose of including so many Switch and Escape Ropes in our deck. We are running a total of 2 copies of the Level Ball. This is mainly to allow us to grab onto those Ariadoses. Could potentially be useful for grabbing out the Hawluchas as well, so we have a little bit of choice in there. We have a single Ultra Ball again, just in case we desperately need to bring out one of our Pokemon, such as the Machamp EX or the Landorus as well. And of course, we can also use it to look for any of our other Pokemon. But we're not running too many balls in our deck, just because we do have a total of 3 copies of the Korrina, which will allow us to grab out the bulk of our Pokemon, mainly our fighting type Pokemon. And on top of that, we're able to look for an item card and put that into our hands. So Korrina is quite nice. We are running a total of 3 copies of that, and those are pretty much the cards I felt really needed discussing. We are running a total of 2 copies of the VS Seeker to reuse any of our supporter cards, 2 Lysanders to lure out any of the opponent's bench Pokemon, a total of 9 draw supporter cards, one of them being the Ace Trainer, 4 of them being the Professor Birch's Observations, and 4 of them being the Sycamores, and a total of 12 energy cards, 8 of them being fighting energies and 4 of them being the strong energies. So with that, guys, let us go and find ourselves an opponent. Now I've actually been using this deck. It's undefeated right now, so it's actually very impressive. But keep in mind that it is on the 12 Blue Dolphins deck. So, but still, I've actually been moving up through the ranks quite quickly. I mean, we've been facing Night March decks, a lot of EX decks, and things like that. So I feel like it's a pretty good deck right now. So it looks like we're going to be facing a Fairy type deck. My guess is that it's going to be a Mega Gardevoir EX deck. So those could actually be quite difficult for us to deal with. Looks like we're going to start off with a Spinarak as our active Pokemon. I will absolutely be... Oh yeah, so looks like we are indeed going to see that Gardevoir EX. Let's go and make use of that level ball to look for a Hawlucha, guys, which I'm gonna go and lay down into our bench. I'm gonna go and attach the sorry, what's it called, the Focus Sash, there we go, and a fighting energy card onto that as well, just in case our Spinarak gets knocked out, which I don't think it should be getting knocked out. I'm gonna go and use the level ball to look for one more Spinarak, and I will probably make use of that switch card during our next turn. I mean, that Gardevoir EX can only hit us for 20 damage. Even with a Muscle Band, it falls 10 HP short from being able to knock out that Spinarak, so we should be relatively fine. Yeah, so we are seeing that Muscle Band as well, the Tierno, which will allow the opponent to draw onto some additional cards. A Great Ball, a bit of a risky ball. I mean, there's no guarantee that our opponent will be able to draw onto a Pokemon card, so it looks like it is going to be a Florges EX. Our opponent actually has quite a few nice full art cards, I have to give him that. Florges EX is a pretty gorgeous card, same with that Gardevoir EX. Alright, finally we get our first Machamp EX. Yeah, let's actually go and increase the total HP of that Spinarak by a little bit. I'm going to go and use that Poisonous Nest to poison both, well, actually Ariados doesn't poison itself because it is a grass type Pokemon. Let's go and switch in to that Hawlucha. Flying Press for 60 damage, but the poison damage is slowly starting to lower the total HP of that Gardevoir EX. We still haven't seen any Spritzees or Aromatizes make their appearance, and regardless of how much our opponent hits us for, we do have the Focus Sash, so it'll definitely be able to survive. But it would have been able to survive an attack anyway, so maybe I should have held off on that Focus Sash for the time being. Looks like we're going to be seeing the Pokemon Center Lady, and of course we're going to be seeing that Life Leap heal some additional HP out from that Gardevoir EX. So let's actually go and use the Professor Birch's Observation, get a Tails, of course. I'm gonna go and attach the Strong Energy card on to that Machamp EX. Let us go and poison both our Pokemon and our opponent's Pokemon. I mean, our Hawlucha will unfortunately be losing its life during our next turn. Flying Press for 60 damage, and we should hopefully be able to knock out the opponent's Gardevoir EX during our next turn. But I mean, we don't have any damage counters on the Machamp EX whatsoever right now. Yeah, so Steaming Mad won't actually hit for any damage at all. We're gonna see the Shauna allowing the opponent to draw onto a brand new hand. We're gonna see Xerneas, 2 Xerneases, still no Spritzees, so we're not gonna see any sorts of energy manipulations just yet. So that's kind of nice. Let's see. I mean, I think I may actually bring out the Ariados or the Spinarak as our active Pokemon, guys. Because again, the Machamp EX does not have any damage counters, and it is a pretty bulky Pokemon. So let's actually go and temporarily bring out the Spinarak as our active Pokemon. I'm gonna go and attach the Muscle Band onto that Machamp EX. Let's go and use that VS Seeker, Professor Birch's Observation. Come on, let's get a Heads this time, and nope, we're gonna get a Tails one more time. Let's go and bring out an additional Machamp EX, attach a Fighting Energy card onto that Machamp EX. Let's go and use Poisonous Nest, and then end the turn. So Spinarak, luckily for us, is a grass type Pokemon, so it does not take any poison damage whatsoever. We'll absolutely be making use of that Ace Trainer card during our next turn. Again, we are unfortunately losing the game. The opponent does have the price card advantage. Pokeball, our opponent is going to get the Heads. We may just see that Mega Gardevoir EX make its appearance. But hopefully we'll be able to take care of it in a single attack. I mean, that Machamp EX is 1 energy short from being able to make use of that Crazy Hammer attack. So let's see if it's either going to be the Spritzee. Okay, it looks like it's going to be Florges EX. Maybe our opponent is not running any Spritzies or Aromateas in their deck, or maybe they all happen to be prized. I'm not entirely sure what the scenario is. Of course, I can't read our opponent's mind, and I can't, of course, take a look at their deck. So, okay, it looks like that spin rack is going to survive. So I'm going to bring out an additional spin rack. I'm going to go and attach a Fighting Energy card on to that Machamp EX. Let's go and use that Ace Trainer. And yeah, so I'll absolutely be making use of the Scorched Earth Stadium card as well, guys. Giving up a Fighting Energy card. No switch cards. That's quite unfortunate. I'm going to have to bring out the Landorus. And yeah, unfortunately, I can't really do a whole lot more, so I'm going to have to go and end the turn. Gardevoir EX slowly healing itself, repeatedly making use of that Life Leap attack, but we should absolutely be able to knock it out during our next turn. I mean, we can hit for 200 damage using the Crazy Hammer attack. Of course, once we do poison our Machamp EX, making use of that Ariados' special ability. So things are starting to look up for us, even though we are at a prize card disadvantage. Yeah, so that Gardevoir EX, again, going back to full HP, but at this point, I'm not really worried at all. So I'm going to go and attach a Fighting Energy card on to that Machamp EX. A Muscle Band as well. You know what, let's actually go and make use of that Scorched Earth Stadium card, guys, and see what I can draw into. Okay, so we have Karinas. I think I'd actually look for a Focus Sash this time. I think it's a pretty solid option as well. I'm going to go and temporarily bring out a Hawlucha, which I will be laying down into our bench. And yeah, so I think I'm actually going to go and stick with the Focus Sash on the Machamp EX for now. Let's go and bring out an additional Machamp EX. Let's go and make use of that Poisonous Nest ability. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Opponent's Pokemon was already poisoned. Let's go and use Crazy Hammer, 200 damage, and it simultaneously gets rid of any special conditions inflicted on our Machamp EX. So that's quite nice. We're seeing the Florges EX make its appearance. Definitely should not be able to survive an attack from us. And I don't think we're going to see that Machamp EX losing its life either, unless we see the, yeah, so I was going to say the Skyfield Stadium card, but instead we're seeing the Fairy Garden, so we'll only take a little bit of damage, so I'm not really particularly worried right now. Me and our opponent are both tied with respects to our prize card exchange thus far. We're going to see that Muscle Band, so that Florges EX could potentially hit that Machamp EX for 100 damage. Professor's Letter allowing the opponent to draw onto 2 Fairy Energy cards while I slowly load up this Machamp EX. So we're gonna see the Escape Rope. Who would I like to bring out? I think I'm gonna go and bring out the Landorus right now, guys, because it only requires a single energy card, and it should hopefully be able to survive an attack. But I'll probably be using the Karina, yeah. So we're gonna see that Florges EX come out once again. See, only hitting us for 100 damage, so I'm quite happy that I chose to bring out that Landorus. Okay, looks like we're actually gonna draw onto the switch card. So let's actually go and bring out that Machamp EX, attach a Fighting Energy card onto that Machamp EX, Poisonous Nest. I'm gonna use Karina to look for the Landorus. Yeah, I think that's not too bad. And I think we're gonna go and look for a VS Seeker this time around. Let's go and use that Crazy Hammer one more time, 200 damage, and that will allow us to snatch up 2 more prize cards. So when that Machamp EX really gets going, it gets going very, very quickly, and it's really, really difficult to stop. I mean, 180 HP, so a pretty nice amount of HP. And I have to say that both of its attacks to me are very impressive, which I'm actually very, very happy about, because I do absolutely love that Machamp EX, and we'll be able to win this game, guys. All I need to do is Lysander out one of the opponent's EX Pokemon, so I mean at this point it doesn't really matter. We have just sealed the game, so let's go and Lysander out that Gardevoir EX, Poisonous Nest, Crazy Hammer, 200 damage one more time, and find ourselves one more opponent. So yeah, I'm actually very impressed with Team Machamp EX right now, guys, and we're actually getting a pretty high ranking for the most part right now, so we're actually starting to come across a lot more challenging decks when we do play in this account. So let's see what type of deck we'll be facing this time around. So a Water, Lightning, and Psychic type deck. Not really sure what to expect. Maybe a Night March deck? Because I mean, those Lightning Pokemon could be Joltix, those Psychic Pokemon could be the Mew EXs, and of course the remainder of those Psychic Night March Pokemon, and that Water Pokemon could be the, what's it called, the Empoleon. So just a guess. I'm not really sure if that is actually the case. There's actually pretty high likelihood that I am incorrect, but looks like we're gonna start off with that Landorus, guys. So I'll absolutely be making use of that Professor Birch's observation. Hopefully we can somehow get a Machamp EX onto our bench during our next turn, and as well as that, get one of our Fighting Energy cards into that discard pile, so that the Shout of Power can allow us to retrieve one of those energy cards. So that is the ideal sort of situation for me. The opponent's finally going to bring out their active Pokemon. We're going to do the same. Looks like we're going to probably see a couple of bench Pokemon going into the opponent's bench as well. So just waiting to see what those are going to be. And I think the opponent is able to draw into 3 cards because we just weren't able to draw into any Pokemon. So sorry, actually, yeah, 3 cards. Not really happy about that. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be Articuno, Kyurem EX, Regice. Regice could be kind of menacing. It does have the Resistance Blizzard, which will make life really difficult for any of our EX Pokemon. Yeah, so those water Pokemon can actually hit our Landorus for a lot of damage. Because that Landorus is weak to those water types. So we're going to see the Wally right away. Poliwhirl making its appearance. Alright, so this is a very unusual deck. I'm not entirely sure what we can expect, but I'm going to go and start off with the Fighting Energy card onto that Landorus and a Muscle Band as well. I'd like to guarantee that we have a bench Pokemon just in case somehow our opponent is able to pull off a one-hit knockout. So let's go and use that Karina. A Machamp EX, yes, I think that is what I'd like to bring out, and I think I want to look for a level ball as well, guys, to start bringing out those Spinracks and those Ariadoses, just because they are really important in our deck. So let's go and bring out that Machamp EX, use the level ball to look for the Spinrack, which I'm going to go right ahead and lay down into our bench. Let's go and attach that Muscle Band onto that Machamp EX. Never know, I mean, our opponent could just be running some what's it called, the Headringer as well. It is unfortunate that I couldn't get any Fighting Energy cards in our discard pile, but that's okay. Hopefully I can do so during our next turn. But I don't think our opponent should be able to attack during this turn. We're going to see an Evo Soda, so I think we're going to see the Politoed. Yeah, that's right. So King Song definitely works quite well with Poliwag, Poliwhirl, and Poliwrath. So I think that is probably going to be the main attack of our opponent, but we are seeing quite a few different types of Pokemon at play. So we're going to see Find Ice. That's going to allow the opponent to look for 3 Water Energy cards and put them into his hand. So that's definitely going to help him with respects to loading up those bench Pokemon. Yes, Sycamore is just the card that I needed. Scorched Earth, I mean, we already have 2 Fighting Energy cards in our deck. I don't want to just go too quickly. I mean, I may actually regret that decision. So I'm going to go and bring out some additional Pokemon onto our bench. Let's go and attach a Fighting Energy card onto that Machamp EX. Use the Shout of Power Attack. 40 damage one more time, but it will at least allow us to look for a Fighting Energy card and start to load up those Machamp EXs. So let's say things are looking pretty good right now. We still don't have our Ariados though, but that's okay. We're going to see the Pokemon Center Lady. Okay, so our opponent is going to pretty much set us back to square one, but that's okay. The rate at which he's attacking, the rate at which our opponent is attaching his energy cards compared to the rate at which we are attaching our energy cards is definitely in our favor right now, so I'm absolutely not complaining. I may actually just Lysander out that Regice, guys. Again, I do feel like it could be a bit of a troubling Pokemon for us to deal with. Let's see, I mean, do I have speed? I could bring out that Hawlucha. Yeah, you know what, I think I'm actually going to do so. I could definitely lay down the Scorched Earth Serum card, but again, there's no real point to it right now. That Articuno can't really hurt us. You know what, I think I'm actually going to go with Lysander out that new EX, guys, and hit it for quite a bit of damage. I'm going to hold off on the Fighting Stadium for now. Let's go and use Shout of Power, 60 damage, and I'm going to go and attach an additional Fighting Energy card onto that Machamp EX. So Machamp EX is finally loaded up and ready to go. I felt like it was a good option just Lysandering out that EX, again, just because that Machamp EX does have the Psychic weakness, so it could actually work in our favor just to knock out that new EX nice and early. Kyurem EX, for the most part, shouldn't really be able to perform those big one-hit knockouts on us unless it has a whole ton of damage counters, which will allow it to take advantage of the Outrage attacks. So let's see what our opponent decides to do. But I think for the most part we should be able to knock out that EX during our next turn. Yeah, so I don't think we're going to see any sort of switch cards, so we will be able to draw onto our first 2 prize cards. No more energy cards in our discard pile anymore though, unfortunately. Let's go and use Shout of Power, knock out that EX, and look for 2 cards. No Fighting Energy cards. Okay, so we're getting a little bit unlucky with respects to our energies, and we don't really have any draw supporters that we can make use of just yet. Outrage can hit us for a massive 100 damage. Luckily for us though, that Landorus will be able to survive an attack. So okay, so we have an additional Fighting Energy card, and I think I'm probably going to attack with that Landorus. I'm not entirely sure. I may just switch into that Machamp EX, but that's only in case we draw onto that Ariados. So let's go and use the Scorched Earth Stadium card, get rid of that Fighting Energy card into our discard pile, and yes, so we should be able to knock out that Kyurem EX in a single attack. I'm going to go and look for that Karina. Make use of it, guys. Doesn't really matter what I grab into, because I mean my bench is already loaded up, and I'm going to go and look for the level ball as well. Let's go and use it to bring out that Ariados, and that is going to seal the fate of our opponent's Kyurem EX, which is pretty unfortunate. I mean, our opponent spent quite a few turns ultimately getting it loaded up and ready to go. Let's go and use Poisonous Nest, Crazy Hammer, 180 damage, just the right amount of damage to knock out that Kyurem EX, and we should hopefully be able to win the game. Again, I'm just a little bit worried about that Regice. It does have the Resistance Blizzard attack, but it looks like our opponent is temporarily going to bring out the Poliwhirl instead, so finishing blow can hit us for quite a bit of damage. I hope our opponent brings out an EX Pokemon, and then I can simply Lysander it out and claim those last two prize cards that we have. But no, it looks like instead it's going to be a Poliwag, so our opponent is definitely playing it smart this time around. We're going to see Froakie on the opponent's bench as well, finishing blow hitting us for 50 damage. Definitely not enough to knock out that Machamp EX. I'm going to go and attach a Fighting Energy card to our bench Machamp EX. Going to go and attach the Focus Sash on to it as well. Do I want to Lysander out that Politoed? I don't think it's really all that important. I think getting rid of that Regice is our priority, so let's go and Lysander him out, use Poisonous Nest, Crazy Hammer for 180 damage again to allow us to snatch our second last prize card. Should be able to win this game, guys, unless our opponent pulls off something absolutely incredible, or maybe they end us down to a single card, or make use of the Ace Trainer as well. So we're going to see that Poliwhirl make its appearance one more time. Can only hit us for 100 damage. So let's see if our opponent will somehow be able to stack enough damage counters on that Machamp EX to allow him to win the game. But I don't really think that's going to happen, guys. Unless we see the Silver Bangle, actually, that will allow that Poliwhirl to hit for the magic amount of damage. Nope, it looks like we are going to be able to win the game. So let's go and poison both our active Pokemon and the opponent's Pokemon, Crazy Hammer, and take that last prize card. So yeah, as you guys can see, I'm actually very, very impressed by how well the Machamp EX deck has been performing right now. Let's actually take a look. So we've hit our opponent for 740 damage. They only hit us for 250 damage. Of course, our MVP was the Machamp EX. Anyways, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please be sure to check out some more of my videos, so you can check out those annotations for my previous video or a random video as well. And if you guys really enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And that is going to be it, guys. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.